All right, welcome to the third part and last part of the key concepts section video lecture. This time we're going to be talking about the concepts of stimulus and response. And it seems like something that it's pretty obvious, right? What is a stimulus? What is a response? And stimulus is something that appears in the environment. A response is something that the organism does. But I want to emphasize that there's a very specific meaning to stimuli and responses that we're going to be using throughout the semester. And yes, it is consistent with that kind of very casual definition that I just gave, but it is important always to keep in mind what's entailed in that definition. So think about the situation where you're observing an organism learning something. I'm going to describe that situation, as everything that happens within this metaphorical square. So a number of things happen here, and you can imagine, drawing an imaginary line, a somewhat arbitrary line that separates the environment or the world from the organism, right? So this is, for instance, Thorndike's cat that is learning to get out of its box, and the environment is of course is constituted by the box, what's outside of the box, what the animal can see. There are all sorts of different elements outside in what constitutes the environment in this learning situation. The organism, of course, is the cat, right? So what is a stimulus in this case? Well, a stimulus, to the extent that we're concerned, is some change in the environment, that may result in a response from the organism. It's a change in the environment, something that happens in what we have defined as the environment, that produces a change in the organism, a response in the organism. And what is a response? Well, a response is a change in the organism, in what we have defined the organism, due to the presentation of a stimulus in the environment. So notice that these two definitions are interrelated. You cannot talk about a stimulus without talking about the response that it elicits, and you cannot talk about the response without talking about the stimulus that elicits it. So when we're talking about the cage, for instance, in Thorndike's cat experiment, an important stimulus, of course, is the box. And Thorndike would argue that the box is a stimulus. It's a discomforting stimulus that elicits a response of escape. The box elicits the response of escape, right? So the box is not just a box for our purposes, it's a escape eliciting box. That's how we define our stimulus. And the escape response is not just escape response that happens, or escape behavior that happens just in general. It's escape response that is elicited by being caged inside a box. So whenever we talk about a stimulus and a response, we always have to be able to identify what is the stimulus that elicits that response? What is the response that is, and when we're talking about stimulus, is what response is elicited by that stimulus.